Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Sharing with Shellshock. I am your host, ShellshockPrime, and tonight we are back with yet another session, another podcast. Tonight it's all about sitcoms. We have 4 guests tonight, but right now, I will say this: we're gonna start things off with Azran127 because Wolfie will be here soon. But right now, Azran, welcome.
Oh, hi. I thought you were going to introduce the person who Wolfie would be filling in for.
Oh,
when you said that.
I will
get there.
Oh, don't worry. I'm going to get there. I'm going to get to that. Hito, good to see you again.
Hi, Hito.
Hi, Hito.
We do know my pronouns, right?
Did I get it right?
He, they.
Okay.
He, they now, yeah.
I'll keep
No,
that.
not now. It's always been he, they.
I honestly forgot about that. My apologies for that.
We've been calling me he for a while. It's fine. I get it.
All right, but yeah, welcome back.
But all together, I am there. How's it going?
That's
Carl, please.
Oh, okay, I had to fix that. Sorry, it was cut off for a moment, but it was good.
I know.
Yeah, I see that.
It was just funny. I was laughing my ass off that.
Yep.
But what I was gonna say was, hello, how's it going? It's been a while.
Yep. And
I think the automatons are taking over.
Yep.
It's not the automatons. Oh no, wait. Am I glitching?
What now?
It's the optimal.
It's automaton.
Hang on. It's the optimal robots. Watch out. The optimal robots from space. They're taking over.
Not again.
No, you're good. You're good now.
I have one of those actually, but
Okay.
not for everyone. The standard like black automaton.
Yeah. Hi guys, it's your bear boy host Hito. We have done a lot of shows. We've been on hiatus for 2 weeks now.
Yes.
Because of all the craziness. But guess what? It's your retro gaming bear here, back at the Retro Bear Cave, and we'll be back. And we'll be back next week.
Yes.
I do a lot of retro variety stuff. I also run the podcast called The Retro Game, which shall see you next week, hopefully.
Yes.
But definitely look forward to that. And yeah, Abel and the bonfire as well. And guess what? We kick all of the booty cakes together and raise teams and other stuff too.
Yep. Well, Silver, thank you for coming in. I know that you're basically right now filling in for Wolfie.
More or less. I guess on very short notice because Wolfie, I believe, had a late work session and that they've been pretty busy like all weekend. So they'll be in pretty shortly. I know it was originally like their spot to fill, but I was like, sure, I'll cover for them. And if anything, if I don't mind staying on as a special guest.
Yes. A very special guest for
Basically.
this week's episode. But it's good to have you all on because tonight it's all about sitcoms. So, Fun fact, there's a lot of people who wonder exactly what the first sitcom is, and most people will probably think that is I Love Lucy. It's not I Love Lucy.
Really?
The first sitcom is called Mary Kay and Johnny, aired from 1947 to 1950, was the first sitcom broadcast on network television in the United States, and was the first program to show a couple sharing a bed, and the first series to show a woman's pregnancy on television. This was, keep in mind, this was from 1947 to 1950, so back then, it was actually very impressive for the time. But I Love Lucy.
The lead couple was married in real life.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I Love Lucy was the first well-known sitcom that a lot of people remember, which started back in the early 1950s, and we have so many that have popped up. Even to this day, we're still getting a lot of sitcoms. But before we get started, Azran, we'll have you go first on what type of content you do.
Well, I am currently doing a few different things. I have new music in the works.
Nice.
Some covers especially. In between my last appearance and this one, I held my panels at PAX East and EmblemCon, and the contents of those are fully viewable on YouTube for anyone who missed out at the time. That was a Labo discussion and a Fire Emblem themed concert.
Oh,
So
nice.
lots of good music there. Also, and stream-wise, I'm just between a bunch of games right now doing some one-offs, figuring things out. So I guess notable things are I tried Hades for the first time, and I tried Star Fox 64 for the first time.
Nice.
Wow. All right.
And I'm going to keep doing some stuff like that.
First time evers. I like that. I like that a lot. And Hito?
What did I do?
Well, you did kind of talk about the content you made, but what else you do?
Well, along with the content that I do with just the retro gaming stuff, I also actually do covers of music as well, and I do remixes of regular songs into chiptune themes, since that's my whole aesthetic. I love chiptunes, and one of my biggest dreams to actually like make my own original soundtrack for a video game, so that way, you know, I could be in those I could be in those credits like, hey, this bear made music, enjoy.
Yep.
And I'm just like, yes, I did, thank you. But along with that, I sing, I dance with Silk fans, and I bring all the boys to the yard. I am a milkshake, thank you.
Yep. Indeed. Silver, your turn.
Yeah, of course. For me, I do a lot of things. These guys are doing music and everything. Music is definitely solid. Not like music inclined, but for me, I'm more all about the video games. Me, I play all sorts of video games of all kinds. I play portable games, console games, indie games. Literally, if anything is interesting to me as a hobby game developer and game enthusiast, like I want to play it, because like I try not to be myself like too closed off. Like I'm not like the type who would only play like one genre or just like the standard one game one type of game from a company. I play all sorts of games, but also, I do commentary streams. It's been a while since I've done digital art streams, but I did that as well. And of course, my big thing that I'm working on at the moment is I'm working on a YouTube channel that celebrates the wonderful Nintendo DS, as I'm holding a 3DS, but this still counts.
Yep.
Called Third Pillar, which is currently in the works. So that's been like my MO at the moment, just trying to like celebrate all great things Nintendo DS and more.
Oh, totally. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So we definitely have a lot of sitcom talk, but Silver, can you do me a favor and tell me exactly what exactly as Wolfie does? This would be her first time.
Sure. I know Wolfie's been in hiatus for a good while, but usually from my times, streaming with Wolfie and also watching her content, her stuff is like a lot more relegated towards, I want to say, action, definitely about action games, RPG, simulation games. Wolfie's probably like the best Wolfie player that I know. She has like thousands of hours in that game, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
So she plays that. She played Oregon Trail, and a lot of like cozy games like Stardew Valley, Disney Dreamlight Valley. She's been around the block, but like generally, her games are much varied. Very very grounded. Action heavy games. So
Oh yeah.
that's what she does.
That's very good. Very good amount of games that she plays.
Mm-hmm.
But tonight it's not about gaming; it's about sitcoms. So we're gonna get started with asking everybody what the first sitcom that you guys remember watching and what channels you guys remember watching them on. Let's start off with Azran.
All right.
Well, when you boot up a sitcom, it usually starts with the theme song.
Yes.
True.
And, a lot of them had that classic blues feel.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, I'm going to say, when we come together and speak from the heart, even the Twitch chat can play a part. Whether you're daring or shy at the time, it's always sharing with ShellshockPrime.
Oh my god. I was not expecting that. Thank you.
I told these two I had a plan.
Oh wow.
That's great.
Amazing. I love it.
Now that's next season's theme song. You can't just dismiss it.
Not until I properly orchestrate it.
I'll have to talk to you about that soon. But thank you. Thank you.
Great.
I'll do the chip tuning orchestration. You
Literally a half hour ago.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
And the signs.
Thank you. But go on.
So the actual answer to your question. That's it. Full House definitely came up when it was airing on ABC Family.
Yep.
But I think the ones that were really drawing me in when I was much younger, it started on the Disney Channel, and there were 3 at the time. Hannah Montana was airing, but that wasn't one for me because it was, the girls' show.
Yes.
With blah, blah, blah. But, the boys' show, that was Sweet Life of Zach and Cody.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the Sweet Life, right?
The Sweet Life.
And the other ones, I don't know. I guess Orlando Bloom must have evened out the cast enough because I watched Raven. And the other one for me, probably lesser talked about, but Phil of the Future.
See, oh man, like
That has a good theme song.
Great. I love that show.
Yeah, unfortunately for me, I will say I missed the boat on a lot of Disney stuff from especially for the 2000s.
I can never catch you up. Disney was like peak like live action sitcom.
Yep.
Like a lot of great stuff there. Don't you quote me on that one. Look, we were kids.
Some of it doesn't hold up as well later.
Yeah, that's the tough part of it. Some of it doesn't hold up very, very well.
Yep.
I could have also named some Nick sitcoms, but you know the news on that.
Yeah. There's one that I'm sticking to, which I'll get to later on, though.
And I will talk about Nick sitcoms. Just we won't bring up the Voldemort of this whole entire group.
Yes.
Shall we?
Right. Yeah.
Yes.
We'll separate the artist from the art, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Well, unfortunate artists, if I call the artists. I give it to the actors, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, we gotta talk about it at the very least.
Yes.
Yeah, we will.
But
they were cornerstones, like.
But yeah, continue.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's about the crux of it. Is like the 3 channels that were adjacent to each other in my cable package, because this was the time when we relied on cable packages for viewing television.
Yes.
But there was Nickelodeon, which was my channel 35.
Yep.
And then if you flipped up to 36, it was Cartoon Network. And as a kid, I was mostly watching the cartoons on either of those channels.
Yep.
And there was some really good stuff at the time. But then sometimes I'd accidentally flip down to 34, and that was the Disney Channel. And so after enough accidental flipping and seeing the live action sitcom stuff, eventually something must have stuck out. That's way too far back for me to remember any specifics, but I think Sweet Life is the one that really started
Definitely
transitioning me from just watching the cartoons to giving the live action stuff a shot.
Yeah. That's good. That's very fair. What about you, Hito?
So, my first actual go-to, I remember my theme song, which was Family Matters, honestly.
Yes.
Family Matters was a big one for me. Along with that, I used to watch a lot of things like Martin, which was another one. Yeah.
Oh, Martin Lawrence, yes.
Martin Lawrence, I used to watch that too. And of course, I enjoyed The Nanny a lot too, as well.
Oh, yes, The Nanny.
Biggest one for me was
that shit failed.
Yeah, exactly. But I'll start with Family Matters at least. Because lots of the TV shows that I saw, they were in regular houses. But when you go to like the shows that Nickelodeon or Disney, they're in some rich apartment that's like decked the fuck out in a penthouse.
Yes.
And I'm like, how the fuck do they afford this? Anyway.
Lots of money.
I understand old couple in house. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Especially back then. These apartments that I'm looking like, you ever saw like shows like Jesse, Zach and the Sweet Life, freaking iCarly. I'm like, where is the freaking?
Where's the money?
Wait, how?
Carly had an elevator in her apartment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. In the case of the Sweet Life, their space was like they were in a luxury hotel already.
That's fair, but also, goddamn.
Like for any show that had like, oh, like we're poor and not well off, and like they're living in a pretty decent suburban household, I'm like, be for real.
Exactly, and even with Hannah Montana and That's So Raven, she had a house, which I was like, okay, makes sense. Old couple, old house, makes sense. Hannah Montana, apartment. Wizards of Waverly Place, apartment. I'm like, they run a restaurant. I'm like, cool. That's not enough to keep a whole apartment like that. So mind you, when I watch most sitcoms, I identify the set because that's usually where you're gonna see the characters most likely being all the freaking time, and you're just like, okay, this is cool. But the one that really stuck out to me was Family Matters because it goes over issues that even now people don't see as issues, but they are issues. And it's kind of like, it's an important thing to see in that situation where it's like, oh, police brutality is a thing. Yeah, Carl's a cop, and he doesn't like that shit. I don't blame him for that.
Yeah.
Mistreating Harriet, thinking she can't be a manager because she's a woman in the workforce, even though technically speaking, women are capable of being a manager in any workforce whatsoever. They've proven it whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Proving that literally bullies never win. The geeky guy can always end up with the girl. That type of thing.
Yeah. And that must be Wolfie.
And that's Wolfie.
Hey guys.
Wolfie.
Hey, Wolfie.
Come on in. Hey, well, come on in. Don't worry. Like we're just in the middle of the first question, so we'll let Hito continue on, and then we'll do the roulette.
Yep.
But yeah, like that's why I liked Family Matters a lot because it tackled those very hurtful issues that people tend to do. It also tackled certain prejudices, which was great, and it was done in a way where you can understand that these things are not a joke, and they didn't do it in the way where it was like, you see, that's why you must avoid drugs, or this is why you must avoid guns. They did it for the gun episode specifically because the episode was so horrifying to look at. And I'm happy they made it horrifying because at the end of the day, not every sitcom has to be laughter in the background.
Right. No. That's one thing I've always realized where not all sitcoms have to be all laugh because in between the comedy they can use that the character familiarity to bring up serious material.
Oh yeah.
And then my go-to sitcom, which I actually rewatched because I wanted to prepare for this. I wanted to reinitialize it back, was The Nanny. Love the hell out of The Nanny. I love how she put herself in the show and then put herself in the show again, which was basically, oh my god, you're Fran Drescher. Do you actually do the voice in real life? Do you actually sound like that? I'm like, this is actually very hilarious. And then I remembered there was a behind the scenes on The Nanny where she said she wanted to basically portray the show as her younger self and meeting all of these celebrities when she was younger. And then it turned into what The Nanny is now. Yeah. There was an inspiration behind it to do that. So I'm like, that's pretty interesting that she did it herself.
Oh yeah.
And she was like, do you actually do the voice? And then I was like, is the butler as charming as he is in TV? And I'm just like, okay, cool. She's like, don't worry, you can always check us out at ABC at 8. And they give you the wink right off of the bat too, just like, I'm like, that's. I wish they promoted their shows in such ways like that now, because it was great. Because it wasn't taken too seriously. It was funny, and it was every day, we do advertisements like that for sitcoms now. It's not the best. It's kind of like, here's clips from the thing. Interested? I'm gonna show you a little leg. Did you enjoy the show? Great. Watch us at this time. Stream us on Paramount Plus.
Yep.
So those are two that really go into. I said Martin as well, but I've only seen snips and clips because whenever Family Matters would go on, there were times that there was a block that was Family Matters, Martin, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and I believe that was on UPN actually.
Yep.
Fresh Prince or
Fresh Prince?
I think that was NBC.
Fresh Prince was NBC, yeah.
That was NBC, but they showed old reruns of it on UPN.
They did. Yes.
Oh yeah, syndication, yeah.
Syndication.
Yep. So there you go. Those were my few that I saw. I have plenty more on my list, and trust me.
Yep.
Yeah.
We didn't have cable, so I had to go to the basic channels that had sitcoms.
Yep.
No. That's fair. That's fair.
I had the black box. Remember that old thing?
Oh yes, I do remember those.
Like the Cablevision black box.
Yep.
So
right.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. Very good. So Wolfie, since you just got in, it's good to see you.
It's good to be here. It's good to be seen. Hi.
Yep.
Hello.
So we're on the first question right now, which is what is the first sitcom you remember watching, and what channels you've watched them on?
Oh hell! Do I have to know what channel it was on?
Well, if we don't
I mean,
remember,
I mean, you don't remember? Like, we can help you out. Don't worry about it.
yeah,
Are we talking like the oldest one I've ever seen, or the first one I ever watched?
the first one.
The first one.
The first one.
I'd say probably, like Sister, Fresh Prince.
There we go.
All right.
This is
What was the other one? I was trying to think of the other one.
All right.
Yeah, Sister was a good show.
Yeah,
I think that one was Disney because I know the Mallory sisters did a bunch of stuff on it afterwards.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it did air on reruns on Disney, but it actually started on ABC for
ABC.
the first the first season, I believe, was two
Oh,
seasons,
yeah.
and then it moved to the WB for the rest of its run, and then it
Yeah.
reran on Disney.
And then probably Everybody Hates Chris.
Yep.
And there's one more I can't think off the top of my head.
I could probably help you out with that one. What do you remember about the show that you can't remember off the top of your head?
It was kind of like Sanford and Son, but it wasn't Sanford and Son.
So close to
It was
about
like it's like a country old timey sitcom. Like
Oh,
they were
Green
on a
Acres?
farm. Yeah, 3 Acres.
Okay.
there we go. There we
Yep.
go. I see. I was like see like older, like the Andy Griffith show.
1 point to me.
I have
Just
watched
keeping
Andy
score.
Griffith's show.
Oh my god, I too have watched stuff on TV Land.
Yep.
All right, like wait, so those you were like you consider those like I guess like your first sitcoms.
The first ones I ever watched, yeah, because I would watch TV with my mom.
Mm-hmm.
When my grandmother was over, and that's what was on.
Oh, nice.
Okay,
Very good.
that's good. That's good.
Very good. Silver.
All right. For me, like my pickings were very much like wide because again, growing up in a black household, the three most interesting letters, for TV, UPN, they had sitcom on sitcom on sitcom. We're talking Moesha, we're talking the Hewleys, we're talking the Parkers. Like practically, like there's like so many like great ones I remember watching, but like I think I want to say the first one that I remember consciously being aware of was The Fresh Prince. And then one that I think kind of helped like mold like my personality was, believe it or not, was like a Smart Guy.
Oh, I remember
Like-
Smart Guy.
I feel like I embodied like the lead character. TJ Mowry was the lead character was CJ, Taj Mowry, and I kind of like really like modeled like my early personality like after him. Being the genius kid with like rough older brothers, or in my case my one older brother, and just having like being literally the smart kid of the house, the smart guy of the house, and I really liked that aesthetic so much. So UPN, of course, big mainstay in my household. I did see a lot of like syndicated reruns of the other shows. The Nanny was there. I did watch a little bit of Full House, but I wasn't really into it. The Cosby Show, granted, the person who made the Cosby Show being problematic, but still, it was like around that. A Different World was really popular as well.
Yep.
And I remember again, like my peak sitcom watching was through actually Disney. Disney was doing like a lot of like teen sitcoms. Liz McGuire, even though it's not really seen as a sitcom, but it does fit the bill. That's So Raven was a really big one. The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. But for me, of course, peak Nickelodeon as well would be with like Drake and Josh, Keenan and Kel, going backwards a little bit. Those shows really like helped formulate like my early sitcom, because like in my head, a sitcom was like it's a shot a specific way. There's always a laugh track. Nowadays, like you need to have a laugh track type of sitcom. But that was like, to me, you always have like the witty characters. You'd have like a lot of like the the one-liners, that the one character that where like they pop in and the crowd goes nuts, kind of stuff. But yes, first sitcom for sure. Smart Guy was out there. That's So Raven. Moesha, definitely a really really big one. Yeah, pretty much like UPN was like dominating my life before I moved to Jamaica,
Yep.
and then things ended up different there.
Very good. That's a
Mhm.
pretty good amount of sitcoms you used to watch growing up as well.
Sitcoms were like, again, the 90s were pretty much like dominated by sitcoms.
Oh, yes. And
Sure.
I mean, one takes off and everyone wants to imitate.
yep,
Yeah.
And some successfully, maybe a few that weren't.
Yeah, a handful here and
so
there.
so now that I got to all four of you, here's my own experience. So here's the thing. For me, I grew up on sitcoms. Sitcoms, I've watched a lot of them like throughout my childhood and even in my teenage years and early adulthood. The first sitcom that I remember watching when I was little, since I believe it was like in '89 or 1990 when like this show went on syndication, and that was Full House. That was actually the first one I remember watching, Full House.
Okay.
It was syndicated, I believe, on the channel affiliate, which is now the CW. But back then, if you're in New York City, it was the WPIX.
The WPX, the WB, yeah.
Yes. So I've watched Full House. They were rerunning some episodes while ABC was airing the new episodes on Tuesday nights, because they used to air it on Fridays, but they moved it to Tuesdays. I remember watching a lot of Full House. I would also watch some Nickelodeon stuff. But the type of sitcoms that I was watching on Nickelodeon, like Kenan and Kel. I love Kenan and Kel. It's one of my favorite shows ever. But there was a show on there. There were two shows that one of them did not have laugh tracks, and that's The Adventures of Pete and Pete.
Ah, right.
I love that show. That show to me was peak live action Nickelodeon of the 90s. Basically, that and Kenan and Kel were definitely up there. But there was another one that came out this was like in 1991, and this is where she made her debut before being on Sabrina Teenage Witch. Clarissa Explains It All.
Okay.
I love
Joan
Clarissa
Hart.
Explains It All when I was a kid. I used to love Melissa Joan Hart when I was a kid. That show, I used to watch it whenever like it was on, because back then it's like I would watch pretty much anything. I know it's not a sitcom, but you can't do that on television. I used to watch that, but here's the thing. Nickelodeon back then, when they would air sitcoms, and they would also air like stuff from the 1950s and 60s, because they had Nick at Night, but at the same time they would air some shows at Nick at Night on proper Nick, just to be like, oh, we feel like this show would actually fit in with proper Nickelodeon, and maybe we might get them into Nick at Night if they're older. But this is basically a sample. Like, for example, Flipper or Lassie, I grew up with both of those shows. They aired on Nickelodeon because they also aired on Nick at Night. Nick at Night, when I was young, they aired Mr. Ed. They were airing reruns of Mr. Ed. Like the talking horse. And,
I see. I don't remember that. See, I don't see. I think I missed that because like that was like I won't say before my time, but like I don't remember watching like that point.
And the guy who owned that horse would go on to voice Scrooge McDuck in DuckTales.
Oh, okay.
Yes, Alan Young. Also, like, eventually I would watch some other like sitcoms. Like, I did not watch Fresh Prince until much later. Like, by later I mean 1999 was when I started watching Fresh Prince. Years after the show ended its run. I used to watch a lot of Boy Meets World.
Big one right there.
Yeah, like I remember when it first aired on ABC, because ABC used to have a block back on Friday nights called TGIF, where they have they would have
no one's ever thought of that name.
4 sitcoms that they would air on Friday nights. The mainstays on that were like they would rotate each season. Like I remember there was a show called Perfect Strangers, which it was a sitcom of 2 cousins, from one that lives in the United States and one from a fictional foreign country, who now become roommates. And this sitcom lasted for 8 seasons, and it actually has a spinoff. That spinoff is more well known because there's a character in this show named Harriet Winslow, who was an elevator operator at a Chicago newspaper. After season 4, she was spun off into her own show, Family Matters. So so that's the connection.
I actually didn't know that came from a previous show.
It did.
I just saw Family Matters on its own.
Yep. Because Harriet became so popular of a character in Perfect Strangers that they decided to just give her her own show, which, funny enough, what was supposed to be a show about her and her family, they changed the focus of it and turned it into the Steve Urkel show.
Steve Urkel show.
Because I just want to preface one thing about this show real quick. So Family Matters was actually doing really bad in the ratings at first. So when Steve Urkel appeared in an episode where Laura was going on a date to the dance, and Steve Urkel was one of the boys who might go out with her, but ended up not doing so. The fans loved him so much that they had to bring him back. And he ended up becoming like a regular, and then becoming the main character of the show. So
basically,
what was supposed
pretty prominent on the poster.
And fun fact, Jaleel White was considering quitting acting around that time.
Yeah.
And that led from what was supposed to be like 1 week worth of shooting, that episode, turned into like 9 years of shooting episode after episode. But yeah, that's basically what I remember. I'm gonna go into my favorites soon, but we're gonna talk about up to 5 favorite sitcoms of all time, and one sitcom to avoid at all costs, because there's gonna be that one sitcom where the moment it's on, you actively change the channel and you want to watch something else. There's always that one. Hito?
Honestly, one that I did this a lot with was because it was on a block with friends and everybody loves Raymond. I was okay with those because, mind you, I used to watch a lot of the WB block at night. So we would get friends, we would get Everybody Loves Raymond, we would get Everybody Hates Chris, and then after that, when that one sitcom came on that I just like, okay, this is too much for me. I didn't like Frasier.
See, yeah, I know there's like an interesting fandom around it now, but like, back then, like I didn't really get it myself, you know, because Frasier itself is a spinoff too, believe it or not.
Yeah, and here's the other thing. I didn't like Seinfeld either.
Really?
I actually agree with you on that one. That's probably the one that I avoid is Seinfeld.
Really?
I just really didn't like it.
Because here's the thing, like, I don't know what it was with my like younger child brain, but part of me was like, if you're a stand-up comedian but you're trying to make the rules of stand-up comedy, aren't you kind of like blocking what stand-up comedy is supposed to be?
No, see, like that's
Yeah,
that's what I think about it. For me, like I think with Seinfeld, like it was one of those shows where like I felt like that was better to like view in like clips and I guess technically memes than like a full episode.
Yeah.
Because like some of the storylines never really like made sense to me. Granted, again, I was a kid, so I would know any better. But still, you know, I feel like there was a part of me that felt that it was overhyped.
So let me summarize what you said. This was a show that basically could have been like 2-minute TikToks and that would have been fine, but as a whole it was not good enough to actually stand up for 24 minutes on its block.
Yep.
Understood.
Yeah, definitely.
But point is, at the end of the day, it's like I couldn't stand Seinfeld, and then mind you, whenever I got cut off from like the last show I'd watched before Frasier would come on was Everybody Loves Raymond. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm okay with this. I love Doris Roberts like to hell. I know she plays the grandmother really well, but she also plays the very nosy grandmother really well. And I'm like, yeah, I know that one too well. Looks at my grandmother, may she rest in peace. But still, at the end of it, like I understood it. So, you know, if any other show had like something I could relate to, I was okay with it. And then Frasier came on, and I'm like, okay, next.
Yep.
Next. And then people were like, wait, but why didn't you relate to Seinfeld? I'm like, because I'm not a stand-up comedian, and 2, how is a stand-up comedian telling us how to be funny when he's kind of breaking that too, and he's not really being that funny as well?
When I hear
So-
people defend the show, it's like this set up so many of the tropes that people praise in sitcoms that came after it. But you might notice that criticism doesn't say anything about the show being relatable.
Exactly. But
And that's kind of where, mind you, I still enjoy sitcoms like Friends and Everybody Loves Raymond. The thing is, though, it has not aged well, and that's a whole different conversation. And a lot of people tend to not understand, like, oh, but Friends is not funny. It was never fun. Like, no, don't try it. We understand that, you don't find it funny now because you didn't grow up with that generation. I did. And trust me, I can tell you it did not age well either. I'm not defending it. I'm going to tell you why it didn't age well. Because you've grown up knowing full well why it didn't age well. Another show that I used to watch along with all of these, I'm trying to remember it, because there was a show that was still in the Will and Grace. There we go.
Oh, Will and Grace, yes.
Oh wow, Will and Grace.
So that one was fun for me because for some reason I related with it, and I don't know why. And then I grew up and came out as bi. I'm like, okay, so now I understand these jokes because now I know all the. Because mind you, rewatching that, I know all of the musical jokes. I know all of the freaking Cher / Madonna jokes. I know literally what Liberace. Like I was like, okay, rewatching this, I understand now. And then when they remade it, they made it more modern. So the jokes about Grindr and all that other shit came up, and I'm like, God damn. And what didn't help was the fact that Karen's character literally like spoke really true volumes about how Republicans act, and I was like, oh.
Oof. Yeah.
Because mind you, I love Karen as a character, but also at the same time, I'm like, she's really selling this good. Because this is how I would see this actually happen. She would literally go in the new remake, me and Melania were talking. And I'm like, shut up. Shut up. Don't you dare finish that sentence. It's like, me and Melania were talking, and after he uncuffed me from that radiator, you know what he said to me? He says, and I'm like, okay, that's a lot. That's a lot like, you can't just throw that to me in a first sentence and not make me go. Although with the remake, they did pull out the Cheeto joke in a really good fashion, which was the fact that since Grace is a interior designer, she's like, hold on, let me see if this matches his coloring for a second. Pulls out a Cheeto and tries to like pull out swatches. This one works. Now, like, so they basically took the original show, which was a little bit more dated at the time, because again, 2000s as opposed to what 2017 or 2018 was.
Yeah.
And they actually were able to make it more modern, and it worked out in the long run. It wasn't bad. It wasn't terrible. And honestly, you got to see more of the characters as human beings. Like, hell, there was a moment where literally you felt bad for Karen because she's literally saying goodbye to Rosario, who passed away, which was her maid that was basically her best friend. So, yeah.
Yep.
Like, it was really good.
That's fair.
Yep. So,
like, shows that I would say didn't... As long as the show didn't relate to me in any which shape or form, I turned it off. So those two were usually Frasier and
Seinfeld.
I just see. I forget the name. That's how bad it is.
Wow. Okay.
Oh my goodness.
Yep. So,
Hey.
Silver.
My goodness. What was the question again? I'm like he was like just like speaking gospel real quick.
if you could think up to 5 of your favorite sitcoms of all time and one that you avoid at all costs.
5 of my favorite sitcoms, one that I avoid at all costs. So I'll probably do a mix of like new and old school for like my 5. So if I could choose like things that are like at least as current-ish / relevant, I'd put Community. Community is really, really great. Like I always loved the writing for Community. I was always big believer in 6 seasons of a movie, and the movie is being worked on. I believe it's currently shooting. They're planning to release it by next year.
Oh, nice.
So that's gonna be really good. One that I'm actually currently watching, and I've been really enjoying it. Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Right.
Love
Yes.
love me some Andy Samberg. Like that dude is funny as hell. I love The Lonely Island. so much in SNL. Like, even though I didn't watch SNL, I just love the Lonely Island.
Rest in peace to Raymond Holt, by the way.
Raymond, yeah, and Andre Brower, like yeah, Captain Holt. Like, God, what a role. Like, I know he's been like in more shows, but like, God, like that to me is like his quintessential role. You know, that was one. So that's two so far. I'm like going down like my list. So going back a bit, wheeling back to like the Disney Nick era for me. I know like a lot of like the Schneider shows were like really like peak, you know, like sitcoms for Nickelodeon. But to me personally, my favorite live action show Nickelodeon was like Ned's Classified School Survival Guide.
Yes.
That was my favorite. Wonderful show. Go on.
So fun fact, they actually also hit the problematic train because of the Schneider situation.
I believe so, because like didn't they like recently or like
recently when the show came out, when Quiet on Set came out.
Yeah,
they literally clause all deniability of what happened on set.
Yeah, because like they felt that they were like a lot more divorced from like the Schneiderverse, basically.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but like, you know, like even though like they had that, there were a couple things that were a little bit like iffy. Like I'm a devout watcher of the podcast because like they have a pod now with the three of them. And again, I've rewatched the show at least twice. And, you know, I think it was the reason why I even got Paramount Plus, because not all the seasons are on Netflix. I had to get Paramount Plus to finish the rest of it.
No.
But that show practically was like my Bible for like surviving high school. You know. And for those that don't know, for me growing up in Jamaican high school, it's the 7th grade to the 11th grade. So that's 5 grades basically. So it's middle school and high school put together basically.
Yeah.
So that was look, it's how they do it there. Like, it's not fun, but I lived through it. Okay.
I know, but you need that break in the middle.
Unfortunately, I was stuck with those people for 5 years, and it was a trip. But like practically, like that helped me literally survive school. You know, even though there were a lot of like American things in the show that didn't really translate to like Jamaican sensibilities, you can get around it with like a little bit of like know-how. And I did really like live that show in a way. You know, I had the people who I stuck to as my best friends. There were definitely a couple of characters in my life that mimicked almost a show in a way. It wasn't as like as slapsticky, but like it definitely was something that was like very, very entertaining. And again, the big thing about the show is like it didn't just entertain; it also really just like made you learn. It was educational in its own way. Going over to Disney, I guess my top show there would be The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. I thought that show was like nothing but this fun and hilarious, and you really like got to like enjoy like the characters. You know, Zach, Cody, Mr. Mosby, Maddie, and London Tipton, Esteban. Like I loved like anytime there was like an episode on, I'd always like just gladly tune in. Yeah,
I agree.
I believe you left out the full name: Esteban Julio Ricardo Montoya de la Rosa
Ramirez.
That is so much,
and you have to say it that way every time.
Yeah, every time. Ah, jeez. I got the name. The name is still like down pat in my head, and in terms of other like things such as the Prindle, you know. With London and the Prindle, like God, like there's so many like just moments from that show alone that just like live like rent free in my head, like for sure. And then if I could wind it down with like my last I guess last two or I guess like my last one, because I did do Disney and I did do Nick for my last two. Again, I'll throw it back in Smart Guy, because again that was like my first one, and like even though like, I have not watched it in years and I don't know how well it's aged since then. But again, it was one of those shows that I could always like sit down and watch and just really, really enjoy it. But if I could like backfill like another one that people sometimes, I don't see they forget it sometimes, but it's kind of there. I remember this is only because I watched this with my cousin, who's basically like almost like a sister to me. Then this was in syndication in Jamaica. They syndicated Girlfriends down there on UPN. They had like TVJ down there, and it was extremely popular in Jamaica actually. So I remember watching that a lot with her back then. So that was that. Even though I was not really like the demographic for that show, but I still enjoyed it because I thought it was like really fucking funny. Mm-hmm. So that definitely is like an honorable mention in a way.
All right.
And as for the show that I would say to avoid. You know that the thing is too. I don't watch shows that I would avoid. You know, honestly, it's like if I see episodes that I would avoid it. Frasier, I didn't really get that much into it, but I didn't really watch it. If I could think of like anything like 2000s, I could only think of like maybe a handful, maybe 2.5 Men, because like Charlie Sheen was like kind of like a deal breaker for me at that point. Wasn't really a big fan, and like it was like a little bit awkward.
Yeah.
Also, I never got Two Broke Girls like at all.
Oh.
Oh, come on. Two Broke Girls is hilarious, though.
I'm
never
sorry.
watched
It just never clicked for me. Okay, you know, I know there's some controversy, but like
I would assume that the other Chuck Lorre shows don't click for you either in that case. Like Big Bang.
I don't like the Big Bang Theory.
What about Dharma?
Yeah, same creator. So like, I get it.
Wait, what?
Dharma
What
Greg?
It's the same creator as Two Broke Girls.
I never did watch. Like, man, again, that was the point where I was reaching out of like network sitcoms and watching like a lot of like other, like cable sitcoms, I guess, in that vein.
Yeah.
Because like again, didn't really hate. Like I said, like avoid. Like again, people are gonna have like they're being fans of certain things, but like there are ones where either I didn't really get it as well, or it just wasn't really something that clicked with me, and I felt that was one of those shows that just never really nailed it with me. Like I know that like it's one of those shows that just like it has, again, all these shows are gonna have their own fan bases. I don't think there's any like one that's like a universally like reviled one. Maybe 2.5 Men, because like, again, people are fans of that, but like I feel like that really people a little bit my one to avoid, because like the show, it's not as great, and like again, it was during the Charlie Sheen Tiger Blood whole bit there, and they changed it with Ashton Kutcher, and even then it kind of sucked. So I don't know. Again, by that point, I wasn't watching like sitcoms as much, and also again retroactively, like I don't watch the Cosby Show anymore.
Yeah. That's fair. Wolfie, 5 shows that you love, and 1 show you avoid at all costs.
Can Azran go first?
Okay, Azran.
Yeah, Azran, you're up.
If you insist, I have notes.
Good. There we go.
All right, I have an interesting little hodgepodge for my top 5. It was actually a top 4, and then you reminded me about Ned's. So that's going to take the number 5 spot, and we already talked about it.
All right, gossip.
Okay. Earlier, you mentioned Clarissa Explains It All.
Yes.
As the launching off point for Melissa Joan Hart. And Sabrina was all right. I got some enjoyment out of it, but the one I'm putting in the top 5 is one that came after that.
Melissa and
It's
Joey.
called Melissa and Joey.
Yep.
Melissa and Joey.
Oh.
Wow.
Oh.
Huh.
Oh.
Yeah, so this was an ABC Family original sitcom with her and Joey Lawrence. And a lot of people call it like an updated Who's the Boss, because Mel is a city senator, councilwoman, and ends up hiring Joey Lawrence's character, Joe, as the live-in nanny for her 2 adopted kids.
Yes.
Who are her, they're her niece and nephew, actually.
Yeah.
Right.
But like, she's the mother figure, because their mom's in jail. For the same reason that Joe got hired by her, because he was involved with a Ponzi scheme started by her husband. It's a whole thing.
Wow.
Wow.
Never actually seen the show.
So yeah, it's kind of a gender flipped Who's the Boss, but it was 2010s, so it's a lot more updated in terms of like references, and the jokes are a little more risque at times.
Yep.
Okay.
But yeah, like Melissa Joan Hart carries anything that she's in comedically.
Yeah.
So just on her name alone, I can recommend going back to it, because I did do a rewatch some years after to be sure it held up, and I thought it did, actually.
All right. Then. What's next?
Next is one that's still airing, so maybe thoughts on this will change in the vast future. Abbott Elementary.
I still need to watch it, but I've seen enough
seen
like
it.
clips I followed like Quinta's career since like she was on BuzzFeed, and I'm so glad that she's won like Emmys and stuff, like, 'cause like she is hilarious, and I've seen enough from her and Shirley Ralph. She's like one of my early favorites from like Moesha.
Yeah.
You know,
They have a good number of really good cast members on the show. I relate to it as an educator. We did talk earlier about if the show is more relatable to you, then you're more likely to get on board with it.
Yes.
And so
Right.
all the jokes they make about how the education system works definitely land for me.
Yep.
But I think it's just good on its own, even without that, because I know a few other people who got behind the show.
Mm-hmm.
And then they got two more to round out that 5. Classic Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. I don't think a lot of people can argue with this one.
Yep.
Fresh Prince is like classic. Then peak '90s like sitcom. Will Smith was made by that show basically.
Yep, he was.
It was an interesting. It's interesting how the show managed to continue despite the giant shift with Aunt Viv.
Oh yes.
Yes.
Since right after the first season.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
Like
3
Janet
seasons, Janet Hubert left the show.
Mm-hmm.
Daphne Maxwell Reid came in to replace her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
yeah, and like there's a bit of a difference with the delivery.
yes.
Yeah.
And they do a lampshading joke when they introduce the new Aunt Viv. Like, wow, you look like a whole new person now.
Yep.
Yeah, I always like that stuff.
But yeah, I'd say Will, Carlton, Uncle Phil,
Jeffrey.
him. Like, there's a lot of people who carry the show anyway. I think I enjoyed the later seasons a bit more when they were doing college stuff.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
you got the payoff of Will and Carlton's bond getting stronger.
Right.
And then rounding out my top 5 is something I bet none of you will have.
Really?
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
What would that
TV Land briefly got a mention earlier because of Wolfie.
Mm-hmm.
And this is not one of the old school ones. No. This is when they started playing around with TV Land original programming around 2014.
Yeah, they did originals.
Yeah, TV Land was a Nick at Night spin-off channel where it was a Nick at Night segment. Then it became its own channel. And then in the 2010s, it was not doing as well. And they're like, what if we tried making our own show? And you had Betty White in Hot in Cleveland. But that's not the show I'm talking about, because after that, the one that came right after that, starred Sutton Foster, who is amazing in just about anything. It's called Younger.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
It is based off a book, but they extended the book's content to make it last 7 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
So the full series is out. It ended after season 7.
Okay.
She's like a 40-year-old woman, and she's looking for a job, and realizes no one's hiring a 40-year-old woman. And she's a writer, so she's looking for jobs at publishing firms. Right. So at one of them, I can't remember if it was an intentional lie or an accident or some mix of both, but they get her age wrong. And they say, oh, you're like 26. Because Sutton Foster can pull off that look, despite being in her 40s.
Okay.
And they hire her under the guise of her being a 26-year-old.
Okay.
And so she's pretending to be younger than she actually is, and that leads to romance stuff as well as work stuff. And it's a little unhinged sometimes.
Hence Younger, There we go. All right, that's a good list.
A very good list.
And then, I guess, one to avoid.
But stay away from The Office. I know that's a divisive opinion, but I cannot stand Will Ferrell's delivery. Sorry.
Never actually watched The Office, actually. A lot of people love that show, but never watched.
Again, one of those shows where, I've seen it more in clips than I've seen it in, full episodes.
Right. The only thing that I remember was that one gif of, one of the guys saying, "No, God, no."
Steve Carell.
There is the meme of it. Corporate needs you to tell the difference between these two pictures. They're the same picture.
Same picture.
That's all I remember, and that's
or of course,
most of the jokes, they try and get the same level of humor, and aside from those little exceptions that have been memed to death, it's a lot of deadpan humor and Will just being annoying.
Yeah.
Like, the joke is, look at that guy. Look how annoying he is in the work environment. Laugh.
I've heard that they say that the UK version is like the better version, but like
I've
I can't really say that.
Yeah, I've heard about that too.
Wait a minute.
What's up?
Steve Carell.
Steve Carell. That's what was. That's what.
I get those two mixed up because their names both end in rel.
Yeah,
That's what I was like. That's what I was like.
It took a while. It took a while, and I'm like, wait a minute. Oh, like I
if
get
Will
it.
Ferrell ever sees this, please accept my apologies. You're much better than Steve Carell.
Joe, before we go into this one, I actually forgot to mention a show, and out of the 5 that I had picked, I only named 4 from my block.
Really?
There's one I want to bring up, and it is Mother's Day, so I might as well bring it up. It's called Mom with Anna Faris.
Oh,
Anna Faris and Mom. Okay.
So this is literally showing like generations of addiction and how it affected them, essentially. So you got Grandma Bonnie, who basically made Christy, aka Anna Faris's character, and then her 2 children as well, where she doesn't want to let down her children, but you actually start seeing her going more into a phase of becoming a lawyer, which is great. But she has to also live with like making amends and stuff like that as well, because one of the things that they teach you in like one of those communities where essentially they're trying to bring you up from going through all that, making amends, and it is a sitcom. It is a great sitcom, but it also has its serious moments too. I think that's why I can find that one very good, because at the end of the day, it's like, remember how I said that a sitcom doesn't have to be like really good. It doesn't have to be like really good to have like that laugh. It doesn't have to have a laugh track to be really good.
yeah.
Yeah.
This is one of those shows that actually, it does have the laugh track, but it's not really needed. It doesn't need it. Because when the moments are funny. You don't need the laugh track to tell you when it's funny. And when something actually shocking happens, you get the whole entire
Yep.
I have a theater background, so I usually go back to separated tragedy from comedy. Because in sitcoms, the implication is comedy, and a lot of people mistake that as this needs to be funny. You need to be laughing at any moment. Yeah. But for Shakespeare, it wasn't about the jokes. It was tragedies and in death, comedies and in marriage. And not all sitcoms need to end in marriage, mind you, though a lot do.
Yes.
But it's more like, it's not a tragedy. There's not like constant death everywhere.
Yep.
It can still have its serious moments.
Like, I think the serious moment that got the worst out of me in that show was essentially someone that Christy finally decides to sponsor to like help her get over her addictions. She didn't make it. She went to a party she wasn't supposed to, and they got the news literally right as her sponsor just got married and is like starting to live out a good life. So between her and her friends that want to still be happy for their sponsor's marriage, because she's always had their back. Like, she's always had their back, always had their sustainability. They didn't tell her anything until the end of her wedding.
Oh, wow.
Because they didn't want to, like, ruin her day. And even the sponsor was like, wouldn't you tell me that?
Right.
I'm over here going, like, I hope I get to see her today on our special day and all that stuff. And I'm like, ouch.
Yeah.
Like, mind you, that sitcom-y moment where it's like, okay, that hurt. Ouch. I like my sitcoms to be a little bit more, at least somewhat, like I said, if a sitcom's not relatable and it's just always about the tee-hee, ha-ha funnies, I'm not gonna watch it.
Yeah.
And this was one of those moments where it's like, this is realistic for that community where people with addictions do not make through it, and sometimes at some point they don't make it. And so especially when you see that, it gets really sad. And a lot of people hate on the show. They're like, oh, what's so funny about people being in AA? And I'm like, no one's laughing at that, actually.
No.
Yeah, it is more it is more of a comedy drama than a sitcom.
Yes.
Exactly.
This reminds me of a similar premise for a show called Single Drunk Female. And it is just someone trying to get sober. And
Right.
Yeah, like I've been seeing that a lot in a lot of shows over the years.
Oh, that one was like more recent, I believe.
Well,
It was like Freeform.
right,
Yeah.
okay then. But yeah, I've never actually heard of that show, Hito, but I'll have to check it out sometime.
Definitely.
It sounds really good. Yeah.
And it has Anna Faris. You know, she's freaking hilarious.
Of course.
Because I remember her very well from the from all the parody movies of the 2000s.
Yep.
My pussy's gone crazy. Fucking scary movie.
Scary movie. I love it.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, and so I just got rated by Playa Jason. Thank you so much. We're doing a podcast tonight for sharing with Shellshock. So welcome everybody coming through. We're talking about sitcoms tonight. So welcome everyone.
Hello.
Yep. Wolfie, do you have any shows that you consider your favorite of all time?
I do. I was just trying to collect my notes.
Okay.
I guess I'm gonna go probably thereabouts chronological of when I watched them.
Okay.
Weirdly enough, it started with Home Improvement because I enjoyed watching it because I watched it with my brothers. And I also watched it with my dad when he was home, and I also watched it with my grandfather, mainly my grandfather. And my grandfather was the type of person, even though both him and my grandmother were teachers, he was also a very big handyman, and he would fix everything, you know, from cars to doorknobs to anything. You know, he was very skilled, very talented, a huge talented person. And a very big handyman, and anyone in the neighborhood would call him to fix whatever. And he could do it in no time. So that's the main reason that even to this day I love Home Improvement, is because it meant a lot to me and my grandfather. And then next would probably be like Sister.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed that because two of my really good childhood friends, Alicia and Amanda, were like sisters to me, and just like Tia and Tamara were like always together. Me and them were always together.
Yep.
Me and Amanda made our own magazine, handed it out to the neighborhood and stuff. So it was just like inseparable. And then Alicia would take care of me when my mom had to go out or something. So we were always together and getting up to no good and trying to plot against my brothers. And so it was more of a personal connection to it rather than the show itself. And then probably Fresh Prince, because I used to watch that with my brothers, and we used to talk shit about a lot of stuff. Next, let me think. Probably Friends. I enjoyed that because I don't know. I like the whole aesthetic of it, the whole idea of it. It just was like, oh, you know, it'd be cool to hang out with my friends in a coffee shop all the time too, you know, if I had any. You know, it was just weird. I was a weird kid. Then probably Hannah Montana. I liked, even though I know Miley Cyrus and, you know, her dad are like estranged these days.
But back
Well,
then,
they're estranged now, but back then they were really close. And even in the show, they were really close, and it made me think a lot about me and my dad and how close we were, and both of us like country. It's part of the reason why, even though everybody else hates it, I love country. It's because my dad loved country, and that's one of the first musics I was introduced to. But I always put myself in Miley's shoes, and, you know, I had this whole other person inside of me as well. And, you know, I just like, I showed it off only in sometimes, you know, not all the time. And it was like I was constantly at war, you know, wanting to be this person, but I was this person. And I wanted to tell everybody about this other person, but I couldn't be that person. And so I just kind of identified with that a lot. And then Sweet Life, that was just fucking hilarious. Okay, I loved it. The whole single mom and the whole trying to work at a hotel and then them getting up to no good. It was just funny. So it made me really happy to watch. distracted me from a lot of stuff.
Oh yeah.
But
Okay.
as for the show to avoid, like I said earlier, it's kind of a tie between Seinfeld and Two and a Half Men. Mainly because of the whole thing with Charlie Sheen, but also Seinfeld, I just never could get into it. I watched it and I watched it over and I just couldn't get into it. It just did not interest me. So if you're not into that whole ordeal of that show itself, I don't recommend it.
Yep.
Sorry, guys. You can't fix comedy with slap bass.
Indeed. So here's so before we get to my 5 favorite sitcoms of all time, I want to talk a little bit about the one show, the one sitcom that the moment it's on, I actively change the channel and avoid it. And you want to know what that show is? It hasn't been mentioned yet. Roseanne.
I was gonna say that.
I'm gonna be real. I never found Roseanne Barr to be funny, even as a kid. I never liked Roseanne Barr. I never really thought the show was anything special. The only person from that show that I really liked is John Goodman. John Goodman, to me, made that show. And even then, I could not even get into that show at all because I never found Roseanne to be funny.
So Roseanne is barred from your household.
See you later.
Okay.
Where's my sitcom?
Okay.
Team me up with Will Ferrell because he's the good one.
Oh my god. But
Call
yeah,
back.
Even and this is when Roseanne, because Roseanne's been on since like the late '80s, and I never really liked it, even when I was a little kid. When it was on, when you see all of them, like the intro where all of them just sharing food with each other in a dinner table, I would change the channel. What scared me as a little kid was after the intro, you hear her laugh, and I'm like, yep, nope, change the channel. So, Roseanne is the show that I actively avoided at all costs. Never loved, never even liked it. So, with that out of the way, now here's my 5 favorites. Boy Meets World. I love Boy Meets World. Boy Meets World to me was a show that I used to watch on ABC all the time, and also when it was on syndication. Of course, everyone talks about how much they love Topanga. I do too. But I've also loved the show for like the way the characters were developed. Because season 1 was just a typical sitcom. Season 2, they actually decided, you know what, let's ditch this whole family thing and make it more for a teen demographic. And the way they did it, they were showing all the high school issues that they had to deal with. Though they aged advanced all the main characters by 2 years, just so that they can rush to go to high school already. And they did that. They had like all these characters, like you had Corey, you had Sean, you had Topanga, you had Corey's older brother Eric, who Will Friedle, who voices Terry McGinnis in Batman Beyond, among many other like DC superhero shows.
Right.
But the main person to really take away from the show, like the main person that was important, Mr. Feeney. Mr. Feeney, the next door neighbor. He was top
of my list for the next thing.
The next door neighbor, who was also the teacher in the first season, as well as a couple seasons, and he would also be like a principal. Despite that, he was more of a parent in a sense, like basically the secret parent, because he looks out for like not just Corey Matthews, but also like most of the main cast, like the main characters. And I remember there was like these 2 characters. One of them like came from Salute Your Shorts for the second season, like because like there was these 2 characters, like 2 best friends who were bullies, and he was friends with like this big guy. I forgot what was his name, but I remember him from a Game Gear commercial where he was playing Super Mario Land 2 on Game Boy, and he hit himself with a squirrel, and he started hallucinating that there was color.
There's color.
Yes, because I remember he was in that. Because I remember.
That was him for that commercial.
That was him, and he was in Boy Meets World. He was like the big bully from like the second season onwards, and his father is a professional wrestler, the man they call Vader. Big
Vader.
Van Vader, who wrestled in like WCW, WWF, and many others. They had him in 3 episodes, but one episode I remember was where he was in a wrestling match against Jake the Snake Roberts, and Corey and Sean had tickets to go to that match to watch it, but at the same time, it was Topanga's birthday. So they tried to be in 2 places at once. How is it that they would run back over to Topanga's party, and then they run back,
And
and then the match is still going on? How does that work?
Sitcom logic.
So that's number 5 for me. I love
Wait.
Boy Meets World.
Wait, there's more that you should know, and I want you to look this up, Shell, because you're gonna get the chance to do this. There's a now sequel to Boy Meets World with Topanga and Corey grown up, and Corey now taking the role of Mr. Feeney.
Girl Meets World, which I
Girl Meets World.
never got a chance to watch that.
I would say give it a shot. It's actually really good.
I've heard it got canceled,
But it
way
is
too
a
soon.
step down.
It's a step down, but like it's still really good.
Yep.
Yeah.
Debatable.
Well. I'll give it a shot. I'll check it out for myself. That said, that's number 5. Boy Meets World. And I will say, to play Jason in chat, unfortunately, I never got a chance to watch Golden Girls. I want to watch Golden
Same.
Girls someday, but I will say though that, like, Betty White, B Arthur, like all of them, they're great. I still gotta watch Golden.
McClanahan.
I will watch Golden Girls at some point. All I know is that there's a professional wrestler that I know that absolutely swears by that show, and that's Xavier Woods.
Xavier Woods.
Like,
and technically Justin Roberts, like, you know, the ring announcer
yes.
for the AEW.
Yep. So number 4 for me is Kenan and Kel. Kenan and Kel was a show I used to watch a lot of on Nickelodeon back in the day. And the thing about that show is that I absolutely thought Kenan and Kel were funny when I was a little kid. I used to think that they were great. To me, like, that was like one of the best sitcoms to come from Nickelodeon back in the day. Better than like anything to me, better than anything from like most of the stuff in the 2000s. But I just felt that like the sitcom with the laugh track in Nickelodeon, that was peak to me. But however, I do think that The Adventures of Pete and Pete is a much better show, which is my number 3. That did not have a laugh track, but the way they structured that show was really good. You have 2 brothers, both named Pete, Big Pete, Little Pete. They started off as just random bumpers, like on Nickelodeon, just to fill time before the next show starts. And then eventually it spun off into being a full-fledged half-hour show for 3 seasons. One of which, the 3rd season had actress Michelle Trachtenberg, who would go on to be in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, as well as Harriet the Spy. So I remember her being a part of that. But and Little Pete would go on to be in all that for like a good 3 seasons. What I remember about Pete and Pete was how like he had a best friend named Ellen, who a lot of people thought that was his girlfriend, but they were just best friends. They never dated. They were just best friends.
Right.
Number 2 for me is going to have to be The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. That show, watching that, seeing Carlton like doing those dances, just the character development of Will Smith in that show, from when he was just a kid, just like this kid, rambunctious kid from Philly, and going all the way to like
Bel-Air.
To Bel-Air. He basically had to be humbled, and the main person to humble him was good old Uncle Phil, James Avery. May you rest in peace, you legendary dude. So the thing about the show is that you had Carlton, you had Hillary Banks, who likes to spend so much money. Yeah, good old Shredder, yes.
Not that their last name is Banks, because they're
Banks.
Upper class.
Yep.
Yeah.
You have the
Ashley.
the youngest daughter, Ashley, who at first she just wants to be everything like Will, but then later on they change her character. They keep changing her character a lot in the show. Sometimes I kind of felt like they didn't really know what to do with her after like the first season.
They should have just grounded her for like 5 years and then suddenly brought her back.
Well,
That was the Boy Meets World approach.
yep. But at the same
Yeah.
time, like you had the two Vivians, and then you have Jeffrey the butler. But the one thing I loved about the show was DJ Jazzy Jeff, who was known as Jazz. He would come in, and the moment he says something stupid, you would see the scene where it just cues the front of the exterior, the front of the whole mansion, and then it cuts into Jazz getting thrown out. Oh! They used that same clip for the entire series.
like basically like whenever Jazz was wearing that shirt in a scene, you knew his ass was being thrown out the door.
Yes.
It was given Eddie and Waldo vibes from Family Matters. It was great.
Yeah. I will say though, Family Matters does not make my list, but it's probably like in the top 10 for me. But number 1, and even though I never watched the finale for this, but I love this show so much. I see most of the season, most of the series. It doesn't have a laugh track. It was on Fox, but I thought it was excellent and well done with how they handled it. Malcolm in the Middle. See, Malcolm in the Middle, like you have like 4 brothers, though one of them was like doing military for like so many years, but then like you had 3 brothers living in the household. Like that's where Frankie Muniz came in, and he had a pretty decent career in the 2000s after this show. But what I remember most is that this show was my introduction to the character Hal and
Bryan Cranston.
Yeah, Bryan Cranston, who will go on to be Walter White. So that's basically where what I remember him from when I first seen him. I used to watch the show all the time on Fox. They used to air it like right after The Simpsons or King of the Hill, and they would air it. I would watch it. Though I remember at some point not watching like the final season, but I had no idea that it was still going on around that time because there's so many shows that like I was kind of tuning out of Fox unless it was The Simpsons or Family Guy. But Malcolm in the Middle, like they just keep. I felt like they did the last season dirty, like to the point where I was not really aware that they were still airing it, and
Right.
I have to go back and watch it. But what I remember watching of most of the show was really good, excellent, well done.
Okay.
So yeah, the next thing is this one we don't have to spend too much time on, but we talk about our favorite sitcom characters of all time. Like at least try to name like 1 or maybe 2. Silver.
Oh, geez, for me, put me on the spot already. All right, all right. So for me, favorite sitcom characters, again, like again, there's so many that I really adore. Again, the trio of Nick, Cookie, and Mose from That's Classified. I really liked Moesha and TJ from Smart Guy. I if I could like choose, I guess like truly like a favorite character. Again, Captain Holt from Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Like is up there. Like anytime like he's in like anytime like Andrew Brown's in the scene, he just steals the goddamn show. Like I don't know like how, because every time he's there, like I'm thinking, okay, I know this character already. I know he's gonna do this, and then he completely flips it on you, and it's just like phenomenal. So I think honestly, you know, they're like up there as like my favorite like sitcom characters because they just know how to like command the audience, and like they always like leave you like wanting more. Really,
Yeah.
I love his interactions with Diaz. It's so great.
oh yeah,
Fantastic.
Yep.
oh my god, Bone. just
Bone.
there's so many great moments. It's not just like giving like Diaz, Santiago, and all of them. Like again, phenomenal. The fabulous Gina Linetti, plays by Chelsea Peretti. But like Captain Holt definitely is up there as like my go-to favorite. And if I throw in like I guess like one more just I guess from I know I covered like just general sitcoms. I think I'll throw one in from Disney. Like I would like you throw one in because like I know we talked about Phil the Future. I really did like the main character Phil. Like I liked him a lot. And, I thought he was a really cool character. Him and like Heavily Keeley.
Yep.
You know, I like that couple very, very much. You know, when they were doing that. But yeah, those would be like my go-to favorites. Captain Holt, phenomenal character.
Yep. All right. Wolfie?
Okay. I was distracted, sorry.
No problem.
It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
I guess probably Tim Allen from Home Improvement, because like I said, he makes me think of my grandfather.
All right.
Tim the Toolman Taylor.
Yeah.
Did you like Mr. Wilson, or are you on the fence about him?
Oh, yeah.
I get it.
I don't know.
I get it.
Maybe. And then let me think. Like I explained, Sister, the twins were like me and my friend. And then of course in Sweet Life, I really liked what's her name? The blonde girl.
The blonde girl from
Maddie, yes.
Maddie
I loved Maddie.
Yeah.
Like the whole girl next door, pissed off at everybody, sort of. Yeah, I kind of like that. I identified with her quite a bit. Fresh Prince, obviously, Jazz. And then, let's see. I probably would have to say that Emily Osmond's character in Hannah Montana was probably my favorite.
Nice.
Okay.
I don't know. I liked her personality.
All right.
And there's a couple others that I just can't place, but yeah, those will probably be my favorites.
All right. That's fair. Really good characters, too.
Yeah, no, for real.
Asman?
Okay, well, like you were saying, in Boy Meets World, it wasn't on my top 5 list, but Feeney is absolutely at the top of the character list.
Yes, Feeney.
Because, like, the man could do no wrong. Well, it wasn't totally flawless either. I think some of the later seasons actually took a step back and made him seem more of a human than this omnipotent
No.
Yeah.
force of knowledge and
You got it.
the ability to fix situations.
Right.
Anyway, from younger that I mentioned on my list, I like a good side character can do a lot. And the name of the roommate is Maggie Amato, and she's at the start of the series. She is the only one who knows about the main character's secret with her age, because she lives with her and knows what job she gets and how she gets it.
Yes.
Right.
That changes over the course of the series, but she's just a fun, sassy character. Lesbian representation. They live in an apartment together. And she's an artist.
Oh, okay.
And then Abbott Elementary. When you do get around to watching it, the characters to keep your eyes on are Ava Coleman, the principal,
Ava.
who undergoes a surprising shift between seasons. And you start to take her more seriously at the same time that she retains her signature delivery.
Yeah.
Barbara's a pretty big standout for me. And of course, any of the characters on the show would agree with this sentiment, because they always build the guy up, rightfully so, Mr. Johnson the janitor.
All right. Yeah. I heard good things about that character.
Yep.
Those are mine.
All right. Hito?
I got a few. So we're gonna start with we're gonna start with Dorothy from Golden Girls. It was a tie between Dorothy and Sophia, because you see where the sass comes from in generational line. Except Sophia's more old school when it comes to the sass. And I remember literally the one time where Blanche's daughter, Rebecca, was coming into the house, and she was a model at the time, but when she came in, she noticed that she didn't have the model physique going around for her anymore. She had gained a lot of weight. She's like, she sees her, she's like, she was a model? A model of what? Tire covers? And I'm like, Sophia, stop. I'm like, God.
Wow.
Sophia's the epitome of not having a filter, and Dorothy's kind of like, I kind of have a filter, but I still will be a bitch when I need to be.
Yep.
Which is great. So I enjoy it. I also liked Rose and Blanche too, because like all four of them are just great in their whole thing for Golden Girls. That is good characterization. It's like you have different standards of bitchiness and sass that comes out of each other, which is great and it's fantastic. We're good.
Yep.
Aside from Dorothy, there is Chandler Bing. I love Chandler Bing. I'm sorry, like I see that whole thing happen. May Matthew Perry rest in peace.
Yep.
But I loved Chandler so much because like he tried so hard to like find love around his thing, and like when you see his glow up happen when he finally starts dating Monica, it's like a big improvement. You see like the man child slowly maturing go into it, which was great.
Yeah.
And he still maintains his goofiness, but he's mature now. He is great at what he does.
Right.
Another character I could talk about is Christy from Mom. Again, she's trying to basically better her life, but the things that she used to do, and one of the biggest things that she had a bad habit doing while she was drunk and then trying to when she was being sober, was she tries to find the most weirdest ways to escape a problem. This one time, she thought she found a really cute guy that she could finally go on a date with, because she was getting over her dry spell, aka like her dry spell when it came to like going out on dates. Not in that regard, but they make jokes about that regard, obviously. And the guy came in full force with a leash and naked, and she's just like, "Oh, good boy." Took a newspaper and literally threw it like, "See this? Go fast!" She goes the opposite direction and runs the fucking way immediately. I'm just like, okay, cool, we get this, awesome.
Yep.
Rosa Diaz from Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Again, I love the fact that she literally will just bring up something from her past, like, and everyone was just like, "What the hell?
What the hell? Like, who the hell are you? Who the hell even are you?"
And specifically Terry's character that does that the most. But if we're gonna choose between anyone from Brooklyn Nine-Nine, it's Gina. It's Gina.
Yeah.
It's Gina.
The fabulous Gina Linetti.
Fucking Gina Linetti. You can't listen. She's like, "Listen, you need to stop being a little bitch in this situation, and you have to start standing up for yourself." And then even when Charles is like, I can't really do it. Okay, listen here. Okay, you got to be on top of this shit right now. You got to understand. If I catch you picking on Charles again, I'm gonna take a pair of scissors and cut your happy sack, and I'm gonna staple it someplace you shouldn't find it.
Ooh.
And then literally Charles does like, "So did I beta you into actually Alpha protecting me?" And then she's like, "What if?" She got mind blown by the concept. She's like, "Oh no, what have I done?" Ew.
Great.
Yep.
So many great character moments in that show.
Yep.
And then my final character, and this is like like I said, I love her. She's amazing. But if she ever becomes my mother, I'm running away and I'm making sure she doesn't live across the street from me. Marie Barone from Everybody Loves Raymond. Because, oh my god. Listen, she should be on the cast with the Golden Girls because she is just as shady as each of those characters. Because literally, she'll go into Raymond's house without freaking warning. She'll see Deborah cooking something or washing dishes. And she's like, "Oh, honey, what are you doing?" "Washing dishes." And she's like, "Okay, we never really do it like that, but, you know, you do you."
she's like judging.
Oh, when she cooks something, she's like, "Oh, that's my ham." "That's a ham? I like its aesthetic, you know?" I'm just like, she's literally like, she doesn't have to be like so snippet about it. It's just like she's doing it without her realizing it, and that's literally like the funny part, because they had a whole episode on like how she does this, and she doesn't even realize she's doing it half the time, and then she started realizing and catching herself on it too. It was fantastic. So those are my few characters that I enjoy.
All right.
All right.
So my characters. Oh wait, Wolfie, did you go?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She did.
You did. Okay. Just want to make sure.
Yeah.
All right. I didn't want to make sure. I didn't want to forget anyone, but my character.
I got you.
If anything, I feel like I'm forgetting myself because I'm about to go next anyway. My character.
Wow, so selfless.
Laugh track moment.
The
So-
cheese is my favorite character on the show.
Yes.
Oh,
So
hang up
Jazz.
here, I got you.
Okay, so Jazz. Thank you, Silver. So
You're welcome.
So Jazz from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, like with how he is, like it's just funny how when he gets thrown off. So that's number one. Mr. Feeney, definitely another one. Don't really need to go too much into detail since Azran already broke him down already, but great character. So Feeney. Another character that I will say that I really liked a lot. Like, I know for Family Matters, obviously Urkel is the star, but I like Waldo. I like Waldo a lot. Yes, I know he was made to be like the resident idiot of the show, but who cares? I liked him. I thought he was a really cool character. Though I know for a fact that he kind of left the show and he ended up giving Maxine, who was his girlfriend at the time, like a Dear John letter as to why like he was leaving. He was gonna apparently do tap dancing. He was actually supposed to come back in the final season that never saw the light of day because when the show moved to CBS, they canceled the show because the ratings were bad. And the final season was supposed to have Laura and Steve getting married in the beginning, and in the end of it, they have a kid. But they never filmed those episodes. And also, speaking of Family Matters, even though she was supposed to be like the crazy one who was so obsessed with Steve, I like Myra. May she rest in peace. Like, she actually died of a very rare stomach cancer, but still, great actress, great character. I really liked how like she was just so obsessed, and it got to the point where she got so deranged over the fact that Steve was dating Laura because she wanted Steve to herself. When Laura was like, Laura should be dating Stefan. Remember Stefan Urkel, like the alter ego of Steve?
The alter ego of Steve, yeah.
Cool
If there was a jump the shark moment in the show, it was definitely the construction of that machine.
Yeah, that machine.
Yeah.
Like, you have that. You have Steve Urkel turned into Bruce Lee. You had a cousin of his called Original Gangsta Dog, but that was the last season. And also another cousin of his, Myrtle Urkel, who
God, they really did go off the deep end with that show, didn't they?
Oops, all Urkels. Basically, that's what it was.
Yeah.
Really Urkels you the wrong way.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Another one I would, and I'm gonna name one more character that I really like. Another favorite sitcom character, Topanga. Topanga. Need I say more?
Topanga.
But yeah. But now let's talk about how much sitcoms have meant to all of us. You want to go first with this one, Wolfie?
Well, I kind of went into it earlier,
All right.
but I guess I'll explain it a little bit better.
Okay.
So, whenever I watch a sitcom, show, movie, anything, I always watch the previews or read the reviews. And then I'm like, okay, does this seem like something I can relate to? Does this seem like something that I could get behind? And if I'm unsure, I'll usually check it out like the first couple episodes. And if it doesn't catch me on the first couple episodes, because there's always the pilot episode, which is way different than the actual first episode, which is the second episode.
Yeah.
That's how it always goes with anything. So I always watch at least 3 episodes of every show or movie, or well, not movie, but any show, to see if I can get behind it, if I can relate to it, if it hooks me. Because I'm a writer, as most of you know, and writers have to find a way to hook the viewers or readers as quickly as possible. Otherwise, there is no connection, there is no anything. And without that, you can't really get behind something. Which is why I explained why I just don't get behind Seinfeld. I just don't. But with me, most of the shows I listed, if not all of them, were because I had some sort of personal connection to them or the characters in them. Because even if the stuff, the semantics behind the characters outside of the show got weird or political or fucked up or criminal, Sorry for my language,
That's
but
fine.
even if outside of the show something got messed up, so the writing within the show is what held my interest, and that's what it means to me to watch sitcoms and other shows. Is I'm a writer, so I try to see what the other writers that made the show are into, and what it is about it, what my favorite parts about it is. And it's just, I have to have a personal connection. And if I have a personal connection, it's going to be my favorite. It's just how it is. So it's the personal aspect of my shows that I chose
All right.
that have really made them mean the most to me. Because my grandfather is no longer with me. I'm not friends with a couple of my friends anymore, so it's the personal aspect. That's what the favorite thing about it is to me.
Yep.
Okay.
All right.
Well.
Sounds good.
Very good information, yeah.
Yep. Azran?
Well, there is an animated series called BoJack Horseman that kind of delves into the duality of what sitcoms can do. On the one hand, it's not realistic to expect real-world problems to wrap up cleanly in a bow in 22 minutes.
True.
But on the other hand, it can provide comfort and an escape for the viewer, like, albeit, temporary and fictional, but it's still comfortable programming that someone can turn to without it feeling, overwhelming in a way that other series might. For me, though, like I said, I had to be transitioned into watching live action stuff through sitcoms because a lot of the ones starring kids on kids' networks were more cartoony in nature. And I know that when we talked about Ned's earlier, that was a big thing that Scott Fellows and the crew wanted to focus on, was the big physicality, the type of humor that you would get in an animated cartoon series.
No.
Right.
But even more than that, and the number of catchy theme songs that would rope you into a show, it's more like this is where a lot of kids are going to be turned to for live action programming, because it's not a gritty drama that's age inappropriate for them. If you're going to see child stars on the screen as a child, it's likely going to be in a sitcom. So if you're someone who's aspiring to entertain, in my case, it was more of like, I was into theater for a while. So here's kids on the screen professionally doing something that I am at the time interested in. And so that was a bit of a window for me. And then also on top of that, I guess I had a bunch to say, more than I thought. But that these are depicting situations, ways that humans would interact socially in a number of situations. And growing up, I did not have a huge handle on social cues. So even stuff like just the way these actors would deliver lines would be like a nice little clue in to someone like me. And then that would later evolve into, now I'm entertaining people because I like stream and stuff. And when I teach, I also try to entertain, because how else is the lesson going to stick?
Yeah.
So a lot of things like comedic inflection, timing, physicality, that I've learned a lot from just the basic structure of a sitcom.
Yep, the semantics.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Hito?
Repeat the question just one more time.
Okay, so how much have sitcoms meant to you?
Honestly, they've done a lot. Because remember when I said that if the sitcom is not relatable, I don't watch it at all?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's that whole situation of it being relatable. Because it's better to see something that you can relate to as opposed to something that you want to aspire to be or something that you can never see yourself in. So in other words, it's kind of like if I see you're having a shitty time and I'm having a shitty time, we're having a shitty time together.
Yes.
And therefore, we are not alone.
We're not, no.
And all in all together, it's essentially you need a good laugh every now and then, and a lot of people need to understand that you can't police humor when it comes to things at the time, including things such as dark humor too. It can be very therapeutic at times. I know it's hard with certain things, and obviously people shouldn't be taking certain cheap shots where they shouldn't be taking cheap shots. But at the same time, comedy has always been a space where anything is up for grabs and always, and it's not supposed to be taken at a point where this was specifically to target somebody.
Yes.
So when I see these sitcoms nowadays, I don't see them in the lens as everybody else is like offended by a certain thing that happened years ago. I'm seeing it as the lens of this was the time, this was the joke, y'all need to calm down. Furthermore, in that situation, it's helped me get through a lot of tough jams as well. Like, I can say that for a month. Sitcoms are great. They're fantastic. And honestly, for the times that before I even started streaming and such, I was told I was never funny. And let's just say I knew how to turn that around very quickly with just a little bit of good comedic timing and stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
So y'all can't say I'm not funny when things happen.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Nah,
You're
nah,
one of the
like,
funniest people I know.
you're-
Calm down.
You're
I wish.
absolutely amazing.
I wish.
Yes.
We'll get there,
Yep.
but it'll happen. But all in all together, like being told that like multiple times, trying to like entertain when it comes to streaming, I'm just like, am I just not doing it right? And then I just remembered, oh wait, these people hate me. There's a difference. Cool. And that's when it just goes to the other thing. Like, if somebody hates you, you're just not funny to them at all. And at that point, it's like, well, we have a hater. Goodbye. And then you make jokes of the hater, but you don't say their name because then at the end of the day, it's good material for another story. That's why whenever I tell my crazy stories on channels, like I do have literally a redeem on my channel that says, Hito tells you a crazy story about someone without saying their name. I'm like, cool. So I had this friend at one point, and then literally I would tell you guys a story, and you were just like, did that actually happen? I'm like, yes. This is a true story based on Hito.
Yep.
So
All right.
that's what's helped out.
Yep.
I got you.
That was very good. Silver?
Geez, sitcoms. How they like? What they meant to me? Well, as I grew up in the Nick Disney Cartoon Network trio for so long, and I know Cartoon Network didn't have very much sitcom-y things, but like Nick and Disney, there's a lot to really like glean about like being a kid in the 2000s. Certain expectations, aspirations, dreams. I think like the best thing I could say about those shows, I guess like in that era, is that you felt like it was almost like a friend to you. Relatable characters that you could feel like that they were like down to your level. Your high school age. They're like hoping that hey, what happens when I graduate from school? Or like oh no, I didn't do my math homework. What's gonna happen to me in third period? Little things like that, right? Like that kind of like just like bores into you a bit. It feels like a lot of like the daily ongoings of like kids never felt like I guess relevant as like material until I guess like the sitcom.
Yeah.
Like I remember like reading a bunch of like stuff about like how like back in the way before the sitcom era, before like when they were it was kids and they were adults. Like the concept of the teenager never took off until like at least like the 50s and onwards. And then like going forward into the age of the sitcom again, like a vignette of like daily life, and then once we get to like the kids channels, it's like programming that's like engineered for kids because like granted it's written by adults obviously, but they get enough reference material from like what they learn from their own children and like other facets of research to like maybe break down like what is like what are the hard parts of a child's life? Is it homework that's due that they didn't do, or it's a friend that doesn't talk to them anymore, or the crush that looks at them like some way and they're wondering was that like the moment where like they're like did they really like notice me, that kind of stuff, shit like that. And I think like again what they mean to me is just like a way to feel like I just like feel seen,
Yep.
like I feel like, you know, at that point again, like I point back to Ned's. It's like how they use that show not just as like crazy slapstick, you know, live action, and but like they kind of like brought the cartoon experience of like wacky situations, but also gave it like a sort of real world kind of like look. Granted, they did something that were still like out of this world, literally. You know, from what I've heard from the podcast, like a lot of like the shoots that they did for the crazy scenes, like, you know, they realized that stuff the most because like that's when they got to really like be, you know, almost childlike. You know, they got to like do all the crazy shit, and like if it was funny, it stuck. But like back to that, like it was really good to see. Bless you. It was really good to kind of see that that's like being explored on television, and you know, I really thought that, you know, I really felt that it helped me out, just like learning how to like understand people, learning how to how like, you know, a problem like that you think is like this big might not be that big of a problem at all, but it still felt good to be seen, even though your problem seemed as minuscule. Imagine like we're all adults now, and there's like lot of stuff to worry about, you know, taxes and the state of living and blah blah blah. But back then, you know, things just felt simpler, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right.
So, sitcoms. Sitcoms really meant a lot to me because there's so many characters that I could easily relate to over the years, in terms of the struggles that they have to deal with in everyday life, or where like where they bond with their families or friends, and
Mhm.
with their like-minded interests or whatever it is that they're doing. Also, dealing with the stuff that goes on in school. Because, like,
All right.
I will say, for sitcoms, some of that actually did happen growing up for me, but a lot of stuff was overly exaggerated for the shows
Yeah,
because,
for the sake of, you know, show.
like you see the tropes of different characters, like the cool kids, the nerds, the popular clique or something, the jocks,
Yeah.
you name it. We do have stuff like that, but the problem is that in real life, it's more unfiltered because obviously they condense everything into a show. But in terms of um the situations, the moments, sitcoms have helped get me through a lot of stuff, both good times and bad times in my life. Since I was about 3 years old when I started watching Full House, and
Right.
I've watched all these shows over the years, and it's gotten to a point where um I feel like if I was a main character of my own sitcom, like I'm not even sure what it would be about, but you know what? I would just enjoy the ride to see how it goes. But I love sitcoms so much. Just how relatable the characters are, the settings and everything. Basically, that's just how it is for me. So,
Mhm.
because of how late it is, I'm gonna only do two of the community questions that we have. Although one of them we pretty much already answered about the everyone's loving a certain show, but you couldn't really get into it. But
Right.
we technically answered that. So
Yeah.
I will say one of the questions I'm gonna bring up is from Shad. How do you feel about clip episodes where they keep flashing back to a bunch of clips from prior episodes? Clip shows. Filler. That's what they are, filler.
Yeah, more or less. Like and again, back then well, again, a lot of the shows I remember watching on, like, you know, and including Disney, they didn't really like abuse like clip shows as much. But like I know a lot of, feel like a lot of the mainstream networks, it was a way for them to, you know, add filler because either they didn't want to like reshoot for certain scenarios, or it's a lot of money to like just reuse clips and then like maybe have like ways to kind of like bridge them together.
No.
You know.
Heck,
Like-
there was literally always a memory filler arc type thing in a
Yeah.
Nickelodeon show. Like they would always have one literally happening right off the back. And Friends had one per season, actually, which is hilarious.
Yeah, didn't they? Yeah.
Yeah.
They had one per season.
Yeah.
That's gives me a chance to throw in that I went to college at the place that had the set that inspired the Central Perk.
Really?
It was a small coffee shop on campus, and the creators of Friends went to the same college that I did. Well, before I did, obviously. But they saw this place on campus where all the students hung out, and that became the basis for the coffee shop in the show.
Okay.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
clip shows.
Just
are
a fun
basically
fact
filler.
I like to brag about.
Yeah, to me, clip shows are filler. But
Rag ahead, please.
the one plot device that I remember the most is when a family is about to get ready to sell a house, and then they start talking to a buyer, and then there's the one character in the show who is so attached to the house and all the moments and memories that they do not
They
want the
didn't
family
want
to sell, and then they just reminisce by showing clips of the episode.
I know Full House did that exact thing.
Fresh Prince of Bel-Air,
Yeah.
Fresh Prince of Bel-Air did, and they ended up like they nearly sold the house to Cheeto, and they didn't.
Yeah.
Ironic thing I say this again. Friends did that when freaking Chandler and Monica found the new house that they wanted to get.
Yeah, the one it's always the one character that did not want the family to sell the house, and in the end, they all agree. You know what? We're gonna keep this house. We have so many memories together, and that's it.
You know, Bluey did this subject correctly because it had no past clips at all.
Yep.
Right. They
I was
did.
gonna say, I think even sorry for interrupting. I think even Everybody Hates Chris had an episode where Chris was basically kicked out and he was trying to find another place, but then he started to remember all the good things about being where he was, and then he just like, I didn't want to leave. I came back. You know, I think that's another thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I am interrupted everybody. My stance on that question is, as a writer, I think sometimes it would be a good tactic, yes. But if you overuse it, I feel like it would get to be too annoying. So it just depends. Like, if you use it in moderation, I think it's fine. But if you use it constantly, I think it's more of, excuse me for saying this, whoever's watching, but it's a sorry excuse for a writer. Just saying.
No, I 100% back that because at the end of the day, it's like, if you have to rely on a clip show for an episode on every season, it kind of makes me think about that whole situation. And even more so on that, it should something like a clip show should have a significant moment in the show, like for example, someone moving and actually moving, and
Yeah, and actually leaving.
You know, like there has to be some sort of symbolic symbol behind that.
Yeah. But it could be worse, like adding a random like character relative of your family, like in a season where ratings are extremely low. But that's another thing in general. I do have one more that I want to bring up from the topic questions before we sign off.
Okay.
This one's from Dragon. Does everybody really love Raymond, and does everybody really hate Chris? And is Corey really perpetually in the house? Note, this is mostly a comical question aimed for the humor.
I know the answer to the third part. He is perpetually in the house. The big house.
I know
White
the
House.
I know the answer.
No,
to
Kyle
the
Massey, the big cat. The actor.
I got it. I get it.
Yeah.
I know the answer to the first one. It's not that everybody loves Raymond, it's that the story's being told from the perspective of Robert, where everybody actually favors Raymond over everything.
Yep.
That's why whenever you see the opening, he's like, well, everybody loves Raymond, so, you know, you're seeing it from Robert's perspective.
Yep.
Okay, but does anyone have an answer for does everybody hate Chris?
Oh, that's another easy one.
Oh, hell yeah, they do.
They do.
That's why they sing it every episode.
Especially his mom. Especially his mom.
Chris.
Though I will say though, like from Everybody Hates Chris, I think that was like my earliest exposure to Terry Crews.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That and White Chicks.
Right.
Yeah.
I would
You're gonna drop 49 cents worth of oatmeal on the floor. Literally.
Yeah.
Julian's like my spirit animal when it comes to like buying shit.
Listen, I'm gonna say this right now. If we go to a convention ever in the future, what you're gonna do is you're gonna print out a picture of Terry Crews in your wallet, and and every time you take out your debit card or your fucking cash, you see that picture and you let it be a reminder. You spending $50 on this?
Oh jeez, that's gonna be me just like looking at like all those games. It's like, don't even think about it.
Don't even think about it. But yep. So that's gonna do it for this episode of Sharing with Shellshock. Before we sign off, I want to know where can we find everybody. Wolfie?
Well, Give me just a second. My phone just dropped on the floor, then I'll answer that.
No problem. No problem.
Oh no, not the phone.
I hope the phone's okay.
Yeah.
It has a cracked screen protector, but other than that, we're good.
Yep.
Wonderful.
As for finding me, I am on an extended hiatus from Twitch. I will be returning at some point in the near future. Not sure exactly when. Not sure exactly what's going to happen, but we'll see. But the best places to find me are Instagram and Twitter. Both of those should be W07F1_TTV. Otherwise, it would be Wolfie9878.
Okay.
Yeah. The old name.
Yep. And Azran, where can we find you?
AZRAN127 on Twitch, YouTube, Spotify, any other music streaming platforms where you want to listen to my original stuff, and any social media like Discord and such. But all the same name.
Yep.
Very easy.
Nice.
Very nice. Hito?
It's HitoRetroGaming on Twitch, YouTube, and HitoRetroGaming1 on TikTok, as I do a lot of TikTok humor as well. And, yeah, nothing else.
Yep.
Nothing else.
Yeah. Right. Anyway, Silver, where can we find you?
Of course, like I say, you can find me anywhere and everywhere as long as you know the name Sylverstone Khandr. I'm on Twitch, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Blue Sky. I'm on many different places that you can think of in your head. Anything is possible. Just put, whatever your favorite site is, put Sylverstone Khandr. Maybe you might find me. Maybe it's an imposter. I won't tell you if it is or not, but like, you'll know that it's me. But generally, where you can find me primarily, Twitch.
Run him off the ship.
You can find me primarily on Twitch, Twitter, and all sorts of social media sites. But primarily here on Twitch.
Yep.
Not OnlyFans though. That's not where I'm at.
Wait, but I see Silverstones all the time on.
No, but and of course you can find me pretty much anywhere on the stratosphere: Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, you name it. I'm there. ShellshockPrime, where I do daily streams on Monday through Thursdays, with the occasional Sundays, and the very rare chance that I might be online on a Friday night. But that's a rare day, or the ultra rare Saturday. But anyway, primarily Monday through Thursday, occasional Sundays. Next week's episode is going to be Cartoon Network Memories, where we're going to be talking a lot about Cartoon Network. And Silver, you're going to be back on that one too.
Yeah, man, I'm going for that back to back again.
Yep.
Man, Cartoon Network was the shit.
We're also going to have Kyle Gamer, Moonlit Maple, and Epic Man joining us next week for Cartoon Network stories. We're going to talk a lot about like Cartoon Network next week, and I'm looking forward to that. Which is
someone better rep the eds.
Believe
That's
me,
me, buddy.
That's
me, buddy. That's me.
We're going to have a talk about that.
Don't forget the original Teen Titans.
Encourage the cowardly dog.
We'll talk about all that. Cow and Chicken, Ben 10, you name it. We'll talk about it next week.
Next week, buddy.
And of course, Azran has the credits right here, like that he has. Thank you once again. Thank you once again for that theme song that you made for me. I really appreciate that. I love that.
It is a stretch.
Yes.
That's wonderful.
So that's gonna do it. I am going to roll the credits that I normally roll, and then I'm gonna get ready to send the raid over. So thanks as always for tuning in. Wolfie, Azran, Hito, Silver, thank you all so much for being a part of this episode. I really appreciate it.
No
Thanks
problem,
for the
dude.
invite. Sorry I had to be late from work.
No problem.
You're all good.
Yep. So with that in mind, that is going to do it for sharing with Shellshock tonight. So as always, make sure to take care of yourselves. Be awesome. Stay awesome. Tell your loved ones you love them. Check up on them as always. May you all fight for everlasting peace. And I'll see you guys for next week's episode, next Sunday. And to everybody that's tuning in, y'all have a wonderful night. And same thing to the guests. Have a great night. Bye-bye,
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Latest.